Dear learners, I am Christina Georgy, your academic counselor for the course code BEGAE-182 titled English Communication Skills. So in our previous session, we dealt with vocabulary development. I suppose you have an idea regarding homonyms, homophones, homographs, compounding, affixation, idioms, collocations and much more. Alright, so today we'll deal with the writing skill. As you all know, the main skills associated with communication include the LSRW skills, that is listening, speaking, reading and writing. So today we'll focus our attention towards writing skill. So in this particular session, we'll discuss in detail the writing process. We'll discuss the various methods of writing which involves identifying the topic, gathering information on it, and the purpose of writing. The various discourse types involved in organizing your writing will also be touched upon. Finally, we'll get into the process of writing the drafts, reviewing, editing, proofreading and much more. All of you are students, right? And you must have started your preparation for your TEE by now, because your TEE is soon approaching and the tentative date has also been announced. And moreover, you must have submitted your assignments. Most of you must have already written your assignments and some of you must have submitted it. Am I right? Did you all submit your assignments? Yes. Good. So if you are a student, then one of the most important tasks that you'll have to perform is writing. May that be for your TEE or for your TMA, you'll certainly have to write. So to fulfill these activities such as assignment writing, exam writing, etc., you need to be good at written communication. Written communication is also important. But we can say that writing is a complex process. Yes, it is not at all easy and not everybody would excel at writing. It is kind of a difficult skill to be acquired, I agree. But there is this idea that good writers are born with an innate ability to write. Do you agree? Do you believe that good writers are born writers and that anybody without that skill can never write appropriately? Yes, the answers that I see are no. Yes, very true. I also agree to that, because writing is a skill that can be acquired over time. All writers need to work at their writing. Research has shown that this idea is not true. That is, not all writers are born writers and that all writers need to work at their writing. So it is a skill that can be developed through effective practice and appropriate strategies. Therefore, it is clear that writing is not just a gift, a skill that anyone can pick up. So you all can write provided you get effective practice and you know the strategies of writing effectively. Now let's see what a few experienced writers have to say about what leads to good writing. Experienced writers spend a lot of their time planning before they attempt the very first draft. First and foremost, writers keep on writing drafts. May that be the rough draft, then they move on to the first draft. Till they reach the final draft, they spend a lot of time. But the maximum time is spent on planning before writing the very first draft. That is, it is only after taking enough time to plan about what has to be written that they write their first draft. Alright, they spend a considerable amount of time thinking about their readers. It is highly important to have an understanding regarding the level of the readers. They explore their subject or topic as thoroughly as possible. They do effective research. Proper research must be done on the subject that is written. They consider their first draft to be a rough one. Very often writers consider They consider their first draft to be a rough one. They write and rewrite until they make their first draft to the final draft. Yes, they thoroughly revise their draft, sometimes completely rethinking and restructuring their first draft. Not all writers follow the same method, and a particular writer may use different methods at different times as well. So it all depends on the person who is writing. Nevertheless, we can say there are 6 steps for this writing process, namely 1. Planning, 2. Considering your reader, 3. Thoroughly investigating your subject, which means researching about the subject, 4. Organizing, proper organization of ideas into paragraphs and things like that, 5. Writing a full draft. While thinking, we may just jot down the ideas, but once we write the rough draft, everything must be properly written. And the 6th one is revising and refining it. Alright, planning, considering your reader, investigating your subject, organizing, writing a full draft, revising and refining. So let me ask you a question. Is it necessary to follow these steps as per written here? Is there a rigid rule to follow these steps? We can say that these are guidelines, not rigid rules. So any writer can feel free to adapt to these suggestions to suit your situation. That is, he or she can adapt to these suggestions in order to suit his or her situation and maybe topic of writing. Yes. So to explain that further, at times these steps can take place simultaneously. For example, maybe as you plan, you can think of ideas, or you may even write a rough draft based on that. So we can't always say that all these steps should be followed one by one. At times it can overlap as well. Nevertheless, there must be proper planning. You should consider your reader. You should do investigation of your topic. You should organize these things. You should write a rough draft, a full draft, and finally revise and refine it. Do you follow me? Thank you. Thank you for responding. Yeah. Now let's move on to the methods of writing. Very often we say writing is a 3-way process. That is, pre-writing, writing and rewriting. You are writing on an article, it will have a pre-writing stage, writing stage and rewriting stage. That is, it is during the pre-writing stage that you plan, you consider the readers, you investigate the topic, etc. It is while writing that you make the rough draft, you try to organize the ideas, and it is during the rewriting stage that you prepare the final draft, revise and refine it. So this simply means that writers return over and over again to their ideas, clarifying them, extending them or improving them. Most writers will plan and then revise their plans, write and rewrite parts or whole of their drafts until literally the last moment they get satisfaction out of what is written. Or rather, when we write, may that be any piece of work, it is a good idea to think about 3 key elements. So let me ask you whether you have any idea regarding the 3 key elements for writing. Do you think there should be a purpose for writing? Yes, obviously. There should be a purpose. At times you might be writing a story, say children's literature. So the purpose might be to educate the children. You might even provide a moral associated with it. Right. Then comes this subject matter. Subject matter is also very important. If you are writing a children's story, then some animals would be the main characters and the subject matter would be something so much relatable or something that would interest the attention of the children. And the third aspect is the reader. With respect to the example that I provided, who would be the reader? Indeed, kids. Yeah, ideally it would be the mother who is reading to the kid. or maybe the father, but the audience in mind would be children. They are the ones listening, right? These are the stories for children. So that was just an example. To analyze it objectively, the 3 key elements while writing must be 1. Purpose, 2. Subject matter, 3. Reader. Keep that in mind. Alright, reader or the audience. So while writing, you need to ask a few questions. First one, why am I writing this piece? That is, what is the purpose? Second one, who am I writing for? That is, who's the audience, who's the reader? And the last one, where do I source the material for it? Or rather, the subject matter or related aspects. Now, identifying your subject is of great importance. Why is that so? You need to know who your readers are and whether they are likely to be familiar about the contents of what you are writing. So if you are writing a piece of work for kids, say kids of some 5 years, will it be appropriate to write a piece on global warming? Do you think that's appropriate? No. So it is of great importance to choose a subject that would suit the level of the reader also. Alright. And you should also have an idea whether the subject is familiar to the reader or is it totally new to the reader. So your explanation will be much less if the readers are familiar with the topic. So if you are writing for the students of 12th grade, this global warming, I don't think it needs much of an explanation, because by then they will be having an idea regarding the concept of global warming. So if the audience is familiar to the topic, you do not need to over explain it. If the audience are new to the topic, then you'll have to explain much more. So knowing why you're writing will help you formulate a goal, do research and organize your material. You need to identify and state your purpose clearly. So you need to identify and state your purpose clearly, because only then will your reader understand what you are writing about, and it is only then that you can gather the information that is most relevant to your readers. Alright, hence identifying your subject in the sense the reader here is of great importance. Now comes gathering information. So most of you must be having the habit of marking, that is highlighting the key points in the textbook. How many of you do that? Even while listening to my lecture, some of you must be underlining the main points. Or most of my students listen to my audios, or rather they watch my videos and mark the points that I say in class. So that would help them understand the key concepts that I discuss in class. So there you are actually highlighting. Yes, good to see that many of you are doing that. Yeah, that's a nice practice. That is also applicable in the case of writing. That is, while researching, read quickly through your material, and you can use highlighters to indicate the material that you think you can use in your writing. Suppose if you are going to prepare an article based on, give me a topic, any topic that you like. We are going to write an article based on the paradigm shift from theaters to OTT. Okay, it is a study regarding how movies get released simultaneously in theaters and on OTT these days. So if you are writing an article on that, you will definitely have to go through some previous literary review must be done, right? Some previous articles or journal reviews, or may that be some online reviews, or there must be books based on theaters or some movies, etc., right? So you might also go refer to all these materials, and as you read, you may even highlight the important things that have to be mentioned in your writing. If at all you are referring to other sources, you need to cite that you refer to that sources. There are citation techniques such as MLA format, APA format, etc. You must have heard of it. Leave it, that's not part of your direct syllabus. Alright. So you could use one color highlighter for ideas, another for evidence, another for arguments, etc. That is how highlighting would facilitate your reading. Then it is of great importance to keep notes as well. Note making is very useful. I often tell my learners to make notes, especially when we deal with some main literature topics for that matter. Alright, keeping notes will enable you to be specific, and it will also keep track of and manipulate what you have read. It is a good idea to concentrate on purely gathering information. Another technique, very useful technique, is brainstorming. It is a very productive method of generating ideas, facts, and opinions very quickly. Remember, brainstorming need not always be with a group. You can always do that by your own way as well. You can do it on your own as well. Another technique is mind map. See, when brainstorming and note making is a verbal technique, mind map is more or less visual in nature. You can see a mind map on page number 45 of your course book. Now comes purpose. As we already discussed, you must be very clear about what your text is going to be used for. Is that for the children to read and enjoy, or is that for educational purpose? Alright, what is the actual purpose of your writing? That must be taken into mind. An explicit purpose statement will help you to identify the steps that you must take to reach your goals, and also to concentrate your search for information or ideas what is related to your purpose. So it is only once you know the purpose that you can identify the steps that you need to take, and also you'll be able to concentrate or focus your investigation or research for that matter. Now comes knowing your reader. We already discussed on that. That is, once you know your subject or topic and the type of communication you want to make, the next most important question to ask yourself is, who is the reader? For example, if you are writing an assignment or a term paper for that matter, you could perhaps use some technical jargon and pitch your language accordingly. But it won't be the same case if you are writing something for the notice board. That is, the language would be quite different. That is, for the notice board, you will never use technical language or high-pitched jargon or language for that matter. You will stick on to simple, easy vocabulary that would be suitable for anybody to read. Right? So that is what is mentioned. You will have to grade your writing according to the level of the readers. Yes. So in brief, you can ask yourself the following questions about the readers. 1. Is the reader an expert or a general reader? 2. What does the reader already know about the topic? 3. What background information might they need to know to understand the current situation? 4. What does the reader need to know? 5. What action do you want them to take? 6. What is their attitude? Are they biased, or do they have positive associations with your subject? Yes, now let's move on to beginning to write section, which is section 3.3 of your course book. First and foremost, writing the thesis statement. So here comes the question, what exactly do you mean by a thesis statement? Any idea? So what is a thesis statement? A thesis statement declares the main point or controlling idea of your writing task. So it is frequently located at the beginning of your writing. Very often we find this main statement, the thesis statement, the main idea towards the first part of your writing, the beginning of your writing. Your thesis statement may begin as a very simple sentence. For example, your text has provided you a thesis statement. The university requires smart boards urgently if education has to be delivered in a modern way. That is the need for smart boards in school. Earlier it used to be a blackboard where the teacher used to write using chalk, right? So this is regarding the use of smart boards. So such a working thesis states an opinion about the subject and suggests what the report memos shall do. Report or memos shall do. So what do you mean by a working thesis? See, very often if we are writing a research paper, we put a working title. That means while we revise and write the draft, or rather before we submit the final draft, we'll get enough time to rework on the title, right? So the first title that we tentatively use can be termed as the working title. Similarly, you can always have a working thesis statement as well. That is the very first statement. Am I making sense to you? Do you follow me? It's all very simple concepts. It's also given in your textbook. A working thesis statement can be your most valuable organizational tool. Once you have thought about your main point and purpose, you can begin to write the draft of your article. So a working thesis statement in your early draft would help you to focus and organize your writing. So let's remember some guidelines for writing a good thesis statement. A good thesis statement states the writer's clearly defined opinions on a particular topic. A good thesis statement generally asserts one main idea. A good thesis statement is stated in specific terms. So it should reflect, or it should state, the writer's clearly defined opinion. It should assert only one main idea, and it should be stated in specific terms. So these are the guidelines for writing a good thesis statement. Now comes the importance of essay map. That is, many thesis statements will benefit from the addition of an essay map, which is actually a brief statement in the introductory paragraph that introduces the main points to be discussed in the essay. So such a mind map will also provide a set of guidelines for organizing your writing. It will also help you from wandering off into areas that is not directly related to your thesis statement. At times you keep on writing irrelevant stuff, right? You move on to the boundaries of what is being discussed as the major idea. So such things can be avoided. Such a deviation can be avoided with the help of an essay map. Essay map describes more concrete fashion the main point of each paragraph. Yes, that is also important. So writing a paragraph, that is also something crucial. What do you mean by a paragraph? Yes, everybody knows about that. A paragraph is a piece of writing which is unified by a central controlling theme or idea. And it is said that one paragraph should contain only one main idea. So it is based on this criteria that paragraphs are divided. So here comes the importance of topic sentence. I'll explain that. This idea or theme that is central to this particular piece of work is called the topic of the paragraph. That is, each paragraph will have one major idea or theme, right? So that is called the topic of the paragraph. So it is sometimes expressed at some place in the paragraph by one sentence. That one sentence mentioned is called the topic sentence. The topic sentence may be a statement, a generalization, or a problem. So this topic sentence is most frequently found at the beginning of the paragraph, but at times we can also find these topic sentences towards the middle or end of a paragraph. Have they asked this question on topic sentence as part of your assignment? If not, then you can expect it for the TE, because either for the TMA or for the TE, they ask you some set questions that I've been observing for quite a while now. Yes, if possible, do refer to that video on TE analysis December 21. Alright, that will help you have an idea regarding the question pattern as well. Yes. So in order to develop the central theme of a paragraph, you have to expand the idea contained in the topic sentence. Yes, it is actually the idea that is explained in the topic sentence that we elaborate further in a specific paragraph. Yes. So this can be done by adding more information. That could be explanation with suitable examples, illustrations, etc. Alright, so you can see one example on page number 48. Due to time constraints, I am not giving you time to read that. Yeah, you can read that when you get time. Alright, so let's now move on to linkers. Another technique which brings about coherence in a paragraph is the effective use of linkers. That is, they are used between sentences and also within sentences. So what do you mean by linkers? It could be conjunctions, prepositions, etc. Right? So to join two sentences, we may use a linker such as and, or we may use a linker such as therefore in order to bring about coherence in a paragraph. So linkers are words or phrases that help a writer move smoothly from one sentence to the next and show the logical relationship between sentences. It is for the smooth flow that we use linkers. So if you could look at the example on page number 49, they have highlighted the linkers there. Yes, the linkers there have been highlighted. Yes, first or firstly, then comes secondly, moreover, most important of all, to a large extent, and, to, similarly, etc. If you have closely observed, you can understand that some are words and some are phrases. I suppose you know the difference between words and phrases? Yes. Letters together form words, words together form phrases, and phrases and words together form sentences. Alright, yes, keep that in mind. So there they have given you a list of such words and phrases. That is, to give examples, you can use phrases such as for instance, as an illustration, etc. To express result, you can make use of words such as consequently, hence, as a result, etc. To express sequence, this is more or less very useful, especially if you are a writer. You can use words such as first, second, next, finally, then, etc. To indicate time, there are words used such as meanwhile, phrases such as after that, since then, etc. Let's now move on to introductions and conclusions. Introductions and conclusions are very crucial to your writing process. The first few sentences of your writing are particularly important. Why is that so? That is because the first few lines would help you to catch the attention of the readers. They'll also make the reader want to keep on reading. So it is for this purpose that very often we find write-ups with the very first sentence asking you a question. Have you seen such write-ups? At times the very first sentence would be a quotation. Have you seen such write-ups? Yes. Very often they also use a personalized lead-in. By a personalized lead-in, I am referring to mention regarding a personal experience. At times it could be a statement of a problem or a popular misconception. At times it could be an arresting statistics or a shocking statement. Then some even start off with a joke or an anecdote for that matter. It could be even an analogy or comparison. Yes, likewise, a good piece of writing must have a satisfactory conclusion as well. That is, it should be a conclusion that gives a reader a sense of completion to the subject that has been read. Hence, it is important that the concluding paragraph emphasizes the validity and importance of your thinking. So, how can you conclude your paragraph? Very often, people use a restatement of the thesis statement. That is, the first thesis statement is also repeated. It could be an evaluation of the importance of the subject, that is, in the contemporary scenario, this is of great importance, something like that. Then the statement of the broader implications of your piece of writing, a call to action, such as at this moment it is mandatory that such an action has to be done, something like that. A warning based on the thesis statement, that is, if this is not done, this would be the consequence, something like that. A quotation from an authority. Yes, you can also conclude using a quotation or an anecdote or even a rhetorical question. Alright. So that's all regarding introductions and conclusions. So did you understand what I have been discussing so far?